The news finally hits about Kyle Larson return, that and a NASCAR update from Texas. AlphaTauri making an announcement of Pierre Gasly returning back. Who will join him next year? And Extreme E, big launch yesterday, we'll explain all about right here on Grid Tonight, post-race edition.
Hello everyone, welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. Joe Samaniego here along with Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish. It's been an unusual weekend and we'll start with NASCAR over at Texas.
After waiting since Sunday afternoon to get the race restarted, NASCAR finally resumed the Auto Trader Echo Park 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. Engines fired at the top of the hour at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Then we had green flag 10 minutes later. And Joe, there's been a lot of sacrifice made over the last few days. Drivers, teams, and others unable to see their family. And when they get home from Texas, there's not going to be a lot of time for them to rest, and reset before the Martinsville Cup race on Sunday afternoon. And I think it was Alex Bowman who mentioned that he was missing valuable time in the simulator this week. And this week, honestly, just sums up 2020. Crazy and unpredictable. However, NASCAR and the crew at Texas Motor Speedway really do deserve a lot of credit for making every effort possible to get the show in. How difficult do you think it's been for everyone at the track, sitting and waiting around for several days to resume action just so they can get all the laps complete and go home?
It's been very difficult for everyone there, especially with the gloomy weather. I mean, it's one thing if for some reason there was some unusual delay, the weather's, a little bit more better, you could go out do things. But just being at the track waiting day after day, and you have this fog, this mist that just seems to be plaguing Texas Motor Speedway day after day, hour after hour. The weather radar shows clear, but it doesn't take into account the mist. It just takes a toll on you. And I think one of the big things for all the teams especially is sort of that fatigue factor of, okay, you've just been sort of at hold mode for so many days now, and now we're finally going to get racing. I think this might be something where for NASCAR to also look at about in the future, especially once we get back to normal, we have crowds again. What do we do in this situation? Do we really just say wait till Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that NASCAR will definitely have to look into in the future. I mean, before we even got to Texas Motor Speedway, looking at the forecast, it looked like that we had an extremely slim chance of getting the show in on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. But luckily, we had an open tonight on Wednesday to be able to get the show in, and really glad that Mother Nature finally decided to play nice after I felt like it was missing for days and days. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to get tired of hearing the word miss, because it's certainly been the drinking word for the past several days.
It has been something where I think going forward it's going to be something where, well, remember as one of the parts of 2020. It definitely won't be a defining moment. Thankfully, we have a lot of great memories in 2020, at least from the racetrack, to make it where when we look back 2020, yeah, it's going to be one of those years with the pandemic. Everything has changed, so at least we got racing to talk about. 2021, there's going to be another racing driver we're going to be talking about as well. Kyle Larson today. Pretty much the news we've all sort of been waiting. The morning the news broke, Kyle Larson is going to Hendrick Motorsports. He'll be piloting the number 5, which is going to be replacing the 88 number. This is the first time the number 5 will be back on the track since 2017 with Casey Kane. Of course, Casey Kane drove the number 5 to victory lane at the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Bob Pockris reports that Cliff Daniels will be the crew chief for Kyle Larson. The current 48 team will be the number 5 team, while the current 88 team will become the 48 team. This is essentially the worst kept secret around the garage. Why do you think we waited until now to hear the official announcement?
I think it might be several things. Number one, Rick Hendrick really wanted the focus to be on the drivers in the playoffs, and also some things probably had to fall into place with Kyle Larson. He's been suspended indefinitely for months. Then NASCAR finally reinstated him after he wrote that long essay basically summing up everything that he's learned since he said the word that should never ever be said. I just feel like a lot of things had to fall into place before making this announcement. And to be honest, I'm actually kind of surprised that they made this announcement today because I thought this would be something we'd be hearing after the season finale in Phoenix.
Definitely something I thought we'll be hearing after the season finale in Phoenix. One of those announcements where obviously you don't want it to be, overshadow the championship or some of the playoffs, of course. The timing of it, I feel, especially had NASCAR ran the complete race on Sunday at Texas Motor Speedway. We've been here on Wednesday talking about Kyle Larson and a little bit of what big events occurred at Texas. Of course, with all the delays, NASCAR, it's Wednesday, they're still in Texas. This was just one of those deals where the news had to, I think at this point, couldn't wait any longer because especially next week, we're going to be talking about the championship 4 because we have concluded Martinsville. This was the time for the announcement to be made. Now, of course, Kyle has long been rumored to have been the number 1 free agent before Monza Madness. Of course, it's well documented what happened at Monza Madness and his journey since then. No word on sponsorships. And of course, it might take a little while for a sponsor to come on board. How important is it for Kyle Larson to come out running strong and trying to earn wins early on in 2021?
Oh, Joe, I think it's going to take more than just strong finishes and wins for Kyle Larson to be able to attract a sponsor. Also, the thing that's still, still the loud voice in the room. Kyle Larson's image is still damaged. It's not completely repaired, and honestly, I don't really think that it will ever be 100% repaired because of the word he said. And I do think some sponsors will be a little hesitant to support Kyle Larson because they'll be afraid that they're going to take a massive PR hit because what Kyle Larson did is going to be on the internet forever. And if people who support a potential Kyle Larson sponsor see that they're sponsoring a guy that said the N word, they might not like that at all, and then it could ruin their business. So I definitely think that Kyle Larson has to do a lot more than just get out there, win, and have strong results for Hendrick Motorsports, and also this number 5 ride is going to be an upgrade over his old ride at Chip Ganassi Racing, and a lot of people felt like Kyle Larson was getting the most out of that 42 car, and that he needed to get in a much better ride to show what he can really do. And since Kyle Larson is going to be in a faster car than he was at Chip Ganassi Racing, I think it's basically put up or shut up now for Young Money.
When it comes to Kyle Larson 2021 sponsorships, you bring up a really good point. What Kyle Larson said, it's going to be in the internet forever. It's something, unfortunately, that the nature of the internet, past mistakes, especially made online, there will always be there lingering. So for any sponsor to sign on to Kyle Larson, that's always going to be a big risk. As you mentioned, the PR hit. The fact that you're sponsoring a driver that said this word way back in 2020, it will always be there. The big thing I especially feel for Kyle Larson, along with just strong finishes going out for winning, he's now going to have the bigger platform of NASCAR Sprint Cup racing. He's going to be contending for wins. He could really use this platform to make a positive difference and really spread the message of the journey he learned to everyone else. I know earlier today during the NASCAR race, there was a little promo for the Dale Jr. podcast tomorrow. And one of the questions for Kyle Larson is like, from what you learned, how do we become a better person? If that's a kind of message that Kyle Larson is going to share with everybody and using that platform, that is really going to be very much a big positive step in trying to show he has changed from his mistakes. He is learning from his mistakes, and I think it'll be good, not just for Kyle Larson to share that, but also for the people that want to become better and the sport as well. The last time we saw the number 5, of course, was 2017. Casey Kane was driving it. Prior to Casey Kane, Mark Martin was driving the number 5. He had good success in that car. Of course, Kyle Busch started his Cup Series career in the number 5 car. And Terry Labonte in the number 5 won the 1996 Cup Championship. With the 5 car returning and the 88 car seemingly going away next season, What is the story behind the 5 car? And do you think we'll see the 88 number again in the Cup Series?
First, I'm going to answer the second question you asked. I don't see the 88 car returning for the foreseeable future at Hendrick Motorsports. Maybe we'll see it again at some point in the future, but I don't think it's going to be within the next several years or so. And now to answer the question about the story behind the 5 car, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. In 1984, Rick Hendrick founded Hendrick Motorsports, which started off as the name of All Star Racing back in the day. And when he entered the NASCAR Cup Series, he chose number 5 as his very first number as a car owner, and he ended up hiring Jeffrey Bodine to drive the number 5 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. And the number 5 represents the beginning of a successful motorsports empire that is Hendrick Motorsports. And with that, the number 5, there is no Hendrick Motorsports standing today, so it really holds a special place in Rick Hendrick's heart.
You bring up a really good point about the number 5. I still remember growing up seeing the number 5 when it was the Tide Ride with Ricky Rudd. Then when Terry Labonte came in with Kellogg's Cornflakes, getting that championship in 1996. And he been one of those numbers, for me, it always seems if there's a NASCAR, there's always has to be some numbers that we recognize. The number 2, the number 3, the number 4 for a while, of course, now that's back with Stewart Haas Racing. And the number 5, I always felt like that was one number that really should always be present in NASCAR because of the history with Rick Hendrick Racing. Rick Hendrick Motorsports. But definitely is one of those things where seeing the number 5 return back is exciting. The 88, I know it's going to be a little different to not see it on the track, but prior to coming back with Robert Yates Racing, it had been a while where we weren't seeing the 88 on the track. So over time, we might see the 88 come back, but definitely I think a lot of fans, and we'd love to hear it in the comments, are you excited for the number 5? And what other race car numbers would you like to see return back in the NASCAR Cup Series?
Yes, and with the history of the number 5, I'm sure Kyle Larson is going to write an entirely new chapter, and we'll finally see if Kyle Larson can finally break out and become the NASCAR Cup Series star that everyone's been expecting him to become, just like he is on the dirt scene. And next, we're going to talk a little bit of Formula One. Today, some news broke that Pierre Gasly will return to AlphaTauri in 2021, ending all of the speculation that he might return to Red Bull. And Pierre brought the team a win on a podium this year at Monza in the Italian Grand Prix. Joe, Pierre Gasly back at AlphaTauri, right move or mistake?
I believe it's the right move to stay at AlphaTauri. One of the big things I think a lot of people were especially concerned about after his win in Monza, do you really want to go back to Red Bull? We've seen what happened last year with Pierre Gasly. We're seeing what's happened to Alex Albon in Red Bull this year. Is that really a positive move for you? It seems with AlphaTauri, yes, after Monza, they had some bad luck. They went out the first lap at Mugello. But then this last weekend, finally got a top 10. They're starting to get the groove back. And I think there is a lot of potential for Pierre Gasly. And the big thing, of course, chemistry. It seems him and that team are really gelling well to try to get the most out of the AlphaTauri cars and trying to put together good results. I mean, they're fast overall. They may not be the fastest, but definitely they're always contending for points.
Yeah, I do think it's the right move for Pierre Gasly to return to AlphaTauri next season, but I think it's the right move for now. I'm going to put an emphasis on for now. Next season, basically the car is going to be the same as this year. They're not going to see any major changes, and I think this is a unique period because 2022 is going to be the big year when there's going to be a new regulations change. We might see a shakeup in the current constructors. So I do think that Pierre Gasly needs to go out and continue doing what he's been doing this year in 2021 and to put himself in a great position for 2022. I do believe that 2021 needs to be his final year racing at AlphaTauri because I think that he'll definitely take things to a whole new level elsewhere with another team. And speaking of his teammate, we still don't have any news about Danny Kvyat next season, and many are suspecting that he'll be out of a ride. And Kvyat was with Red Bull at one point, and he was demoted, just like Gasly. Do you think Danny Kvyat will be in Formula One next year?
I don't believe he'll be in Formula One next year. I'll be shocked if he lands a deal with Haas. I mean, Haas, I think, is really the most viable option. But other than that, I don't see that happening. There's other drivers I think that might be ending up in Haas. It's just one of those deals where, unfortunately, I think his time in Formula One is coming to an end.
Yeah, I don't really see him being in Formula One next year. It does seem like that his time Formula One is definitely numbered. So now the question is about Alex Albon's seat, and we discussed on a previous Grid Live post race about his chances of not returning and the possibility of Nico Hulkenberg or Sergio Perez replacing him. So with Pierre Gasly confirmed at AlphaTauri, does a Hulkenberg or Perez look more promising now?
It does look a lot more promising for Hulkenberg or Perez to land in that Red Bull seat. Essentially, you got where Pierre Gasly is going to be at AlphaTauri. Not only is that good for the chemistry there, whoever is the teammate there, especially if somebody new into Formula One, that's going to be really weird. I mean, excuse me, really just a big benefit for the team to have Pierre Gasly continue the chemistry with AlphaTauri and then help out the rookie, especially in Formula One, adjust to Formula One. What's going to be weird though is just to see a driver like Nico Hulkenberg or Sergio Perez get into Red Bull and not somebody from the Red Bull driver development program. So it's overall, I do think it is more likely to happen now. But everyone's just still, of course, just going to be waiting for an official announcement from Red Bull.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on that point. It does seem very uncharacteristic for Red Bull to pick a driver outside of his driver development program, and it just shows you how desperate Red Bull is right now for results. And Max Verstappen's been obviously carrying the heavy weight and all of that, but they need Alex Albon to get out there and perform, and to Red Bull's dissatisfaction, Albon isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, and and basically is just putting him in a really bad place. So I think Alex Albon's seat is in major jeopardy right now. And my question to you is, where does this leave Albon, considering all of the things that are happening? Demoted to AlphaTauri with the chance to prove himself again, like Pierre Gasly? Will he move to another team, or will he be completely out of Formula One?
That's a great question. That's something where realistically, he could move back down to AlphaTauri, rebound, because overall he was doing pretty good with AlphaTauri last year before the move. I think another team, it's again, I don't know, Haas will be looking at him. Williams, they seem to be more set with either their current drivers or another driver that brings funding. I really think maybe the AlphaTauri might be the best bet. I'll be surprised if he's still in Red Bull. I think a lot of folks will be generally surprised, but if it's not for those two places, I'm afraid he might end up like Daniel Kvyat.
Yeah, I think the more fair option would be to demote Albon to AlphaTauri and let him race alongside Pierre Gasly. Give him a chance to go prove himself that is not just me. That whoever is Max Verstappen's teammate over at Red Bull is just not. It just wasn't that. It's not the fact that Alex Albon isn't talented. I do think that Alex Albon is a talented driver, just like Pierre Gasly. It's just that second Red Bull seat. I don't know what it is about that seat, but whoever is in that car alongside Max Verstappen, it just doesn't go well for the second driver at all. And if Alex Albon goes down to AlphaTauri and shows a good form, then I'm sure that's gonna help his stock tremendously. But I'm not sure if that option at AlphaTauri is gonna be available for him, because Honda and Red Bull really like F2 driver Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, that's another factor. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in Formula One. But of course, we'll be following and definitely mention in the comments what do you think Alex Albon should do for 2021? Where do you think he'll end up? Now, one of the big news for 2021 comes from NASCAR, and that involves William Byron. It was announced this morning that William Byron will be pairing up with crew chief Rudy Fugle. The pair had worked together in the Gander RV Outdoor Truck Series in 2016. They had a lot of success together, and Byron called Rudy second to none when it was announced that he was going to be coming over. Is this the missing piece of the puzzle for William Byron to go get championships and contend for wins?
Oh, I think this is a major pickup by Hendrick Motorsports, getting Rudy Fugle, who is considered one of the best crew chiefs in a NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series. Rudy's been with Kyle Motorsports for a long time, and he's been touted as one of the best talents in the series, and apparently teams have been trying to get him to leave KBM for years to come to their program, and I don't know what offer Mr. Hendrick made to Rudy Fugle, but it was obviously an offer that he could not refuse. And this is another talent leaving the Toyota stable. So yes, so it's definitely going to be a huge loss for Toyota.
Big loss for Toyota, big gain for Chevrolet, and of course Hendrick Motorsports and William Byron. It's really interesting. Sometimes we see drivers where they come in. I could think of a young Joey Logano came in, Greg Zipadelli, championship crew chief with Tony Stewart at Joe Gibbs Racing. The two of them didn't really seem to gel. One win during the rain delay. Of course, we saw Joey Logano go to Penske. We saw Greg Zipadelli go to Stewart Haas Racing. They both had different routes and tremendous success. I feel this combination, bringing a crew chief that worked with a young William Byron, help get William Byron get up to the cup level. Now to come in, I think there's going to be some success between the two of them, and I think there's going to be a lot of potential. Now, of course, Fugle has been with Kyle Busch Motorsports. That truck program, of course, has been very competitive, very successful, and been a history of cup drivers offering Rudy positions, as you have mentioned. Now leaving KBM, going to Hendrick Motorsports, William Byron, what factors may have led to Rudy deciding now is the opportunity to go?
Well, I'm not really sure what specific factors could have led Rudy Fugle deciding that now is the opportunity to go to the Cup Series and leave KBM. But if you look at KBM, they're not the same powerhouse that they used to be in the NASCAR Truck Series. I'm not sure if it's the fact that other teams have caught up to their level of performance, or has KBM declined over the years. But whatever the reasons are, I'm sure Rudy Fugle is looking forward to this next challenge ahead of him, and Kyle Busch Motorsports is definitely going to be hurting with this major loss to the organization.
Major loss to the organization, and one of the things I keep thinking about too, Rudy coming to the Cup Series, and then 2022 we have a brand new Cup Series car, which I think could be beneficial for Rudy. Everyone's essentially going to have a clean slate. So if that 2021 season starts off a bit rocky for Rudy and William Byron, 2022 could be a lot of potential, and I think that's where we're going to see a tremendous growth over at Hendrick Motorsports.
Yeah, definitely. And another driver with a lot of potential is Hailie Deegan. The Ford development driver will make two more starts in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge to close out her 2020 racing program, and she's going to share the number 22 of Multimatic Motorsports Ford Mustang GT4 at the upcoming race at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca with young sports car ace Seth Prio. Yeah, and she's also going to run the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge season finale at Sebring as well. And with NASCAR adding more road courses to the schedule, does it make perfect sense to get her more experience turning left and right?
Yes, it does. Now that we're going to have more road courses in NASCAR, this is something where the road courses, especially when we only had two, Sonoma and Watkins Glen, they were sometimes seen as, okay, this is sort of going to be our one race. We're not going to be that great. Just go out there, try to salvage the top 10. Good luck. Now that we're going to have more, you can no longer have that attitude. It has to be, we got to be competitive at these road courses. We have to go out there and win. You might see a cup team decide, hey, we want AJ Allmendinger. We want somebody with more road course experience. The ovals, we might be a little bit lacking, but we just need one win at a road course, and we're in the playoffs. And the playoffs, there's going to be one road course there. So this move definitely, I think, makes Hailie Deegan a better driver all around, considering there's going to be more road courses up ahead in her future. This will give her also another sense of another racing discipline besides the NASCAR area. I think overall this is a big improvement step for her driving career.
Yeah, and I really like this little Ford driver development program that they have going on over in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge, where they're allowing these Ford development drivers over on the NASCAR side get road racing experience. We've seen it work wonders with Austin Cindric. They had Cole Custer run some races, and Chase Briscoe. Well, Austin Cindric was already a great road racer before he joined that program. But I feel like that this program really helped out Chase Briscoe a lot. I remember when he first got into this Ford Mustang GT4, he was struggling a ton and didn't really understand the concept of road course racing. But quickly. He actually got the hang of it, and Chase Briscoe is becoming one of the better road course racers in NASCAR, even doing better than Austin Cindrix nowadays, who's an excellent road course racer himself.
Definitely, it's one of those things where the Ford Motorsports driver program really seems to be a big benefit, especially the road courses, because that is always one of the big challenges. And with NASCAR looking more into road courses, it's just a win for everyone. The newest series that's going to be running not oval races, but not even street course or road course, but essentially off-road race, and of course, Extreme E. Yesterday was the big day where Extreme E revealed their inaugural schedule for the electric off-road racing series. The first season consists of 6 rounds in Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Greenland, Brazil, and Argentina. We've heard about Extreme E racing in some of the most rugged places to bring awareness of climate change. And help to notice with Brazil there, does Brazil become a bigger focal point, especially considering the controversy with Formula One and the new track at Rio, where it threatens some forest and tree cutting?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it does become a bigger focal point because Formula One got criticized for this, but I think the difference between Formula One and Extreme E here is that Extreme E, the purpose of this series is to bring awareness of climate change and all of the environmental issues that we have going on right now in the world. So I think that the major difference here is just that Extreme E's message is more meaningful to current events happening in the world right now.
Definitely, I agree with you, especially with everything going on with climate change. One of the big things, of course, we've heard, especially some of the new owner teams like Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosenberg, that bringing up climate change, trying to, it's actually bring awareness, especially to the areas that have been affected big time. And of course, Brazil, the Amazon, that is a big concern. And it's really interesting that, of course, with Formula One, their new track in Rio that they're looking at having constructed, more trees being cut down, a lot of criticism going on. And I think this is going to just bring a little bit more attention to what's going on there and maybe some sort of compromise plan. Now, for the lineup of the teams that we have in Extreme E, very impressive. I mean, we got some of the biggest teams in the industry of motorsports, such as ABT Racing, Andretti Autosports, Ganassi Racing, Techeetah, some familiar names we've seen in racing, including HWA, QEV, and Velos Racing. And now we got some teams with big name owners. Nico Rosberg Extreme Racing, and Lewis Hamilton X44. Is this one of the best team lineup that represents the various racing backgrounds you've ever seen?
Definitely. Like, look at those names: Andretti, Ganassi, Techeetah, HWA. Then you have Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton once again going head to head, but not behind the wheel. But as team owners, it's really cool. Watching Extreme E come together. It's definitely different than any other racing series that I've ever heard about. And I'm definitely looking forward to watching the very first event because I have no idea what to expect.
I agree, no idea what to expect, and it's just really interesting compared to Formula E. Formula E, we do have a lot of the European manufacturers, of course, Andretti Autosports there, but we don't see American manufacturers. We don't have an American driver there. I feel like there's a little bit of a lack of American fans following Formula E. Extreme E, we got Andretti Autosport. Of course, they're big when it comes to IndyCar. Chip Ganassi Racing, IndyCar, NASCAR. They got that platform where, especially on their social media, you're going to have them tweeting about not only their NASCAR teams, their IndyCar teams, but also their Extreme E team. There's just so many disciplines from the various teams that are participating in Extreme E. I feel it could really grab a lot more fans and really have a bigger impact. Now, one of the big things, of course, is going to have a very unique racing format, something we haven't seen before. It starts off with side-by-side competition, so it's not going to come down to the fastest time like rally racing, but side-by-side, who crosses the finish line first wins. 2 days of racing, Saturday and Sunday. Since it's electric, 1 full battery charge per day. So there's going to be some element of saving your energy throughout the race. Of course, with this series, there are 2 drivers in each team, 1 male, 1 female. each driver does one lap because each race consists of 2 laps. Finishing positions are the big thing because at the end, Saturday, you have 2 races. That will set the grid for Sunday where you have 3 races. The first race is called a semifinal. 4 vehicles, the top 3 finishers advance. The 4 slower from Saturday, they're in the crazy race where only the winner will go into the final race where you have the top 3 from the semifinal and the winner of the final race, first team to cross the finish line, will win. What stands out the most to you with this new format that XGE is introducing?
Oh, absolutely. Everything you just listed. That's entirely new to me and entirely new to everybody in the motorsports world. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I don't really know what any of this is gonna look like. I'm just ready for the Extreme E season and series to get started. So I can just check it out like everybody else. I'm sure it's definitely going to be another great racing series, and all the teams you listed that that's joining the series, just incredible. And I'm sure they're going to be doing a great thing, bringing awareness to climate change, which is a real problem in today's society, and is going to be a problem well into the future unless we do something about it.
Yeah, for me, the big thing I'm really excited about is especially the 2 drivers and the rule being that one driver has to be a male, one driver has to be female. I think that's really good, especially a lot of times you do have a racing series where, you know, you can hire whichever drivers you want. But a lot of times we'll see teams who go to drivers that they know have funded or bigger background that includes a larger portfolio of races they completed. This format makes it a little different. This makes it where, okay, one male driver, one female driver allows the teams to go out there, look for talent that they see they could win in our vehicles. And we've seen already some drivers posted. Sophia Flores had posted on her social media her testing the Extreme E vehicle. I think a lot of folks will be excited to see her in there. What if we get another talent like Tatiana Calderon or someone else, especially here from the United States, to be racing? I think that's going to be a really big win. Try to get new fans involved, and especially it seems with Extreme E and especially with Formula E. One of the big things, while some traditional motorsports fans may not be exactly following and thrilled with the electric car racing, especially the message of climate change, do seem to be reaching a new audience, and I think that's only going to keep growing ahead in the future.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to keep growing, and I really like how all of these racing series they're just popping out of nowhere. It seems it's been great because we've been used to like the same type of series for so long now, and to see things come along. I remember Formula E come along. I thought it was a strange concept, but when I saw the cars, I'm like, wow, this is so futuristic, and I actually love this. And now Formula E, it doesn't seem odd anymore. And Extreme E sounds like an odd concept right now, but I'm sure once we all get to see what it looks like in a in about a year or two, it's just going to become a regular part of the motorsports world. And next, we're going to talk about some IndyCar silly season news. This morning, it was announced that Marcus Ericsson is returning to Chip Ganassi Racing in 2021. Ericsson completed his first season with Ganassi this year, his second season of IndyCar racing, and it's a multi-year deal. How rewarding is it for Ericsson to sign a multi-year contract extension, and does it show that Chip Ganassi was really pleased with his performance?
It's very rewarding for Mark Harrison right now to have the multi-year deal. It seems a bit in the IndyCar series, we've been seeing more and more one-year deals that have been occurring with drivers. To now know you got a multi-year deal, that is really exciting because essentially that's saying your performance last year was good enough to get not just a new year with us, but multiple years. That's security. That means you can really just go out there, focus on winning. Yes, there's always the pressure to go out there to win, do well for your sponsors, but you know at the end of the season, you're not going to be worried about trying to get a new deal secured and wrapped up. So I think it's a big, big win for Marcus Ericsson.
I think this was a well-deserved contract extension for Marcus Ericsson, because I can truly see the growth that he's made from year one to year two in IndyCar. I think he's certainly come a very long way, and moving forward, getting a third season of IndyCar racing under his belt, I think he can take a next step as well and get a little bit closer to Scott Dixon in terms of performance. And and also Ericsson's going to be racing alongside Scott Dixon once again. Then we're going to have seven-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson as well joining the Ganassi stable, who's going to be running the road and street course races. Is there additional pressure on Marcus Ericsson to perform compared to racing alongside those two legends?
I do see where there is additional pressure, especially if Jimmy Johnson and Scott Dixon get wins early on in the season. A lot of people will be like, all right, your two teammates have won. Are you going to win this weekend? There's always going to be that pressure. But the big thing, and I think this is going to be helpful where you don't have even more pressure, that multi-year deal, that's essentially saying that, it's not only 2021, we're thinking 2022 with you. So 2021, if your two teammates, Jimmy Johnson, Scott Dixon, were to get early wins, yeah, there'll be the pressure to go out there to win, but you don't have to feel like my job is really dependent on it. You got at least 2 more years ahead of you here with Chip Ganassi racing. So definitely it allows, I would say, some breathing room where it's like, okay, you got to go out there, perform well for your sponsors, go out there to win, but you're not racing against the clock when it comes to the end of the year. You're just going out there to try to be competitive, beat your competition in the point standings. And if your teammates are very successful and they are winning races, you just focus on what you got to do and go out there and try to win.
And see, that's the thing about motor racing. You're often compared to your teammates and their performance, and I don't think anybody really expects Marcus Ericsson to go head to head with Scott Dixon, but at least get closer to him in terms of performance. But I do think that people are going to raise a lot of eyebrows if a guy like Jimmy Johnson comes in and he's constantly beating Marcus Ericsson on track, on outright speed, because Jimmy Johnson's been in stock car racing for many years and has very little open wheel experience on his resume. So if you have a guy like Jimmy Johnson come into IndyCar with limited open wheel experience and perform much better than Marcus Ericsson, then I think some people are going to really start questioning Ericsson. And the other driver that we haven't mentioned from the Chip Ganassi Racing stable in 2020 is Felix Rosenqvist, and there's still no official word on Rosenqvist's plans next year. However, there are rumors that Felix is going to be going to Arrow McLaren SP, replacing Oliver Askew in the number 7. And Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press actually reported that Alex Palou may get the number 10 Honda at Chip Ganassi Racing next year. So it'll be a team of Marcus Ericsson, Scott Dixon, Alex Palou running for the championship, and then Jimmy Johnson running part-time in a Fort Ganassi car on the road and street courses. Do you think the number 10 car is the top seat available for 2021, or could we see a new surprise opening that nobody expected? And also, are you shocked that Jenna Fryer mentioned Alex Palou as a potential driver in the number 10?
I'm not shocked to see Alex Palou's name come up. Very good rookie season this year. First 1-year deal. At the end of the race at St. Petersburg, he said he would love to come back next year. If Ganassi can make that happen, I see Ganassi going all in for Palou. The 10 ride, if that does really become available, that is a very good seat, of course. One of the big things, you're going to be compared to Scott Dixon, Marcus Ericsson, Jimmy Johnson. So I feel like it has to be a driver. I wouldn't want to essentially see a rookie get it, because I think that's something for like Alex Palou, somebody that has 1 year in their belt already. Go in there, you're now improving, you're more familiar with the series, the car, you can go out there, focus on trying to bring good results. As for, will there be another ride that might come up and surprise us? Still, there's a lot of words going around about maybe at Ready Autosport, maybe that 28 could be available. Nothing yet, but if that's the case, I'll sort of be surprised, because that's a really good ride. The season's already over. Granted, it's a unique off season with the pandemic. Still, the thought that we could still have silly season going closer and closer to 2021, it'll be a real surprise, I think, if we hear of more big news up ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I bet we're going to see a lot of big news come up ahead, because we're just at the start of IndyCar silly season for 2021, and a lot can happen between now and obviously the start of the season on the streets of St. Pete. And I'm really surprised that the Associated Press mentioned Alex Palou as someone who could be driving in number 10 at Ganassi next year, because he was honestly not somebody that I had on the list going there. I thought he was doing really good at Del Coin Racing with Team Go. I just assumed that he would be a contender to return to that seat next year. But if he has an opportunity to go to Ganassi, I definitely think that's a great opportunity that he should take. But but one name I'm surprised not linked to the Ganassi ride is Oliver Askew, because in the past Chip Ganassi has spoken very highly about Askew's talents behind the wheel.
That could be a surprise later on in case we see. Of course, we know Oliver Askew will not be with Arrow McLaren next year in 2021. Also not returning next year in 2021, the Freedom 100. Of course, everyone in the motorsports world was shocked last week when the 2021 Indy Lights schedule was released. The crown jewel event, the Freedom 100, was not there. There was a lot of anger and backlash online, especially from race fans that really enjoyed it. It had become one of the most entertaining races each year. People were looking forward to this event, especially. In an exclusive interview with Nathan Brown from the Indy Star, Roger Penske was frustrated with the reaction and called it completely unfair. Criticized Indy Lights for not being able to produce a series, citing the low car count. He said, "We bent over backwards and we said, let's have 10 events weekends." He said they all agree that they wouldn't run the Freedom 100. Do you think this reaction was completely unfair, Cody?
Well, maybe completely unfair in the sense that it was all Roger Penske's fault. Because after reading this article, it seemed like that it just wasn't a Roger Penske decision. It seemed like it was multiple players at the party just sitting around at the round table or the virtual round table on Zoom, whatever, to make these tough decisions. Yeah, yeah. So what I was getting at, that Roger Penske is frustrated by the reaction that people are blaming him and only him for this decision. When Roger Penske put other names out there in the article, it really seems like that he's saying like, "Hey, it's not just me. It's a group effort here." So I feel like I'm not really the person who should be taking the blame here solely. That if somebody should be blamed, it should be all of us, because this is what we agreed to.
Definitely, I think it's a case where for Roger Penske, everyone just knew, well, Roger's behind everything now. Easy to put the blame on him. As you mentioned, it was a big group roundtable discussion to try to make a deal occur. This never really came together. One of the big things, of course, Penske also mentioned the idea of IndyCar teams owning an Indy Light team to help improve the car count. He said, quote, "We talked about those and everyone agreed. I never got more phone calls and more people saying, hey, we've got to do this," he said. "There's not one team that gave us a call or sent me a text or email saying, hey, thanks for going ahead with and helping and Detroit to the schedule." Yes, it seems like there's a lot of politics involved going on behind the scenes that fans are not exactly aware of.
Oh yeah, definitely. It seems like there's a lot of politics involved here. Well, not just here in IndyCar, but in motorsports in general. Yeah, I really don't like politics at all in these situations. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And looking at one of the quotes from the article, it really shows that there are definitely some politics involved. When Roger said, rather than that, all they did was talk about no IMS Oval and no Freedom 100. They're going to have to deliver. The guys that came in begging for us to do this are going to have to deliver, including the Anderson group. I would say this right now. Anything I've talked about is off the table right now.
Yeah, definitely. It seems too often when it comes to motorsports, a lot of times there's a lot of politics background. Of course, there's a lot of money, a lot of effort going into planning the season, making it viable for the teams, for the series, and what's the best interest of the fans, of course. And definitely, we'd like to hear from all of our viewers in the comments. What do you think, especially about the Freedom 100? Definitely just one of those deals where we'll hope to someday see that race again, because I became an Indy Live race. A lot of people actually calendar looking forward for this event. And quite often it was the only Indy Lights race that they would watch. Now it's time for some quick takes.
IndyCar driver Zach Veach is set to make his dirt racing debut after parting ways with Andretti Autosport in Cambridge. He's attempting to try out a new discipline. Veach will drive a sprint car at Atomic Speedway in Ohio.
Morning consultants, Bubba Wallace data shows that essentially, Bubba Wallace teaming up with Michael Jordan could really broaden the sports audience. Polling data from Morning Consult suggests that Bubba Wallace, with his new team of Michael Jordan, along with Denny Hamlin, could really increase some of the numbers. Here are some notable statistics. 40% of Jordan brand enthusiasts say they are more interested in NASCAR. 24% are Black adults, 17% are sports fans, 22% are NBA fans, and 12% of all U.S. adults.
Audi confirmed its Formula E lineup for next season, and it's going to be Lucas Degrassi and Rene Rast. And you remember Daniel App was in that seat, but after the esports incident, he lost his ride with Audi. Rene Rast completed the final few races of the Formula E season when they ran all of those races at Berlin. So Rene Rast finally gets the full-time Formula E seat.
IndyCar driver Graham Rahal had to evacuate his California home after returning from the season finale at St. Pete. He posted some scary photos on social media of the Blue Ridge fire. He was afraid that he might lose everything in the fire. In his latest post, Graham praised the firefighters for saving his home. However, Graham and many others are not completely out of the woods just yet. We'll continue to keep those affected by the wildfires in our thoughts and prayers.
NASCAR Wheeling Euro Series driver Alex Segwich will make his way to the United States to race stock cars over here, and Segwich will make his ARCA Menard Series West debut in the season finale at Phoenix Raceway. He will drive the number 12 Toyota Camry for Bill McAnally Racing, and it's definitely some good equipment that's capable of winning, and he's joining the likes of Anthony Kumpen and Alain Day to make the jump from stock cars in Europe, bringing their talents over here to try out stock car racing in America.
Virgin Australian supercar racer Rick Kelly announced that he will no longer race full-time, taking a step back after 20 years of racing. Rick Kelly's decision leaves an open seat at Kelly Racing. Of course, Rick Kelly has 2 Bathurst 1000 wins. Silly season essentially underway down under.
A human rights group called Amnesty International criticized Formula One for plans to host a race in Saudi Arabia next year, and in a statement, they said the following: "A Saudi Grand Prix would be a part of ongoing efforts to sports watch the country's human rights record." Saudi authorities, who apparently still see elite level sport as a means of rebranding their severely tarnished reputation. If a Saudi Grand Prix goes ahead, at the very least, Formula One should insist that all contracts contain stringent labor standards across all supply chains, and that all race events are open to everyone without discrimination. In the lead up to the race in Jeddah, we would urge all F1 drivers, owners, and teams to consider speaking out about the human rights situation in the country, including by expressing solidarity with jail human rights defenders.
The 24 hours of Spa has been a little bit of an issue in regards to the COVID-19. In an interview on Sports Cars 365, Stephanie Rattel of SRO said he was concerned in the days leading up to the 24 hours of Spa due to the number of COVID-19 cases surging in Europe, particularly in Belgium. The government enforced further lockdown measures to stop the spread. Luckily, the 24-hour Spa was completed without issues. However, one driver did test positive for the virus. Nick Yaloli announced on Twitter that he tested positive for that he is experiencing mild symptoms.
In an exclusive interview with Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com, Eldon Julian, owner of Dragon Speed, said that he sold his IndyCar chassis to Meyer Shank Racing, who is looking to expand to a 2-car IndyCar program. And Julian said the pandemic took his team back by 2 years, so it made sense to end the IndyCar program. And Dragon Speed has no regrets trying out their hand in IndyCar racing, but they plan to focus on their LMP2 program moving forward. While the IndyCar journey may be over for now, Julian left the door open for a potential return in the future if all the cards fall into place accordingly.
Definitely room for a potential return. It'll be really interesting to see how that all develops. Definitely, we want to thank everyone for watching, and especially we hit 107 subscribers this week. Of course, last Saturday we hit 100 subscribers. Please subscribe, like, and comment below. We'd love to hear from you. We enjoy interacting with you. Also, I highly encourage everyone to visit our Patreon page and sign up, be a patron, like our Patreon, Colin. Your support will ensure the growth of the grid network, especially for 2021. We want to further expand our coverage, be at the races, report from the track, and bring you the latest motorsports news from around the globe. On behalf of Kobe Lammers from the Podium Finish, I'm Joe Sandiego. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.